back to that approachability, I think what we were talking about before is I really don't think in terms of equity when it comes to a sporting event, referees have a fair shake of being able to explain things.
No, I agree with that. And I think we just have to like have more connections to each other. I know a lot of referees. I'm friendly with a few, but out of the majority, I would say I really don't have a relationship at all.
This is why I think that this is an important conversation, because seldom would you see, I don't know, even know if that would be like appropriate, like a high school ref that refs in the same league as somebody that's coaching, right? Like, I don't know, because
you
people
wouldn't
would
even
think,
be able to do it.
People would think it's favoritism, but I definitely think that I feel like social media has now turned the corner where now we can shed light into saying like, no, this is how referees think. And I feel like the more people see this, especially like parents that are associated with your team, your travel team, or just anyone that's watching that, they go, I never thought of it that way. Because they think of referees in such a black and white term, meaning he got the call wrong, he's terrible. That's it. Yeah. As opposed to thinking like, well, she couldn't really dribble, and I was trying to give her grace, but it didn't work out, and she wasn't in control, but she did get fouled, so I'm just going to call it out of bounds.
What I think a lot of people don't realize is whether you're a coach, you're a referee, but more so with referees, is you have, like, the moment to make the call.
Yes.
Like, that's it. You just have the moment.
And I'm doing it in public, right? So everyone's going to have it.
But it's like, as soon as you see it, you just got to call it on instinct, which you know. Right. And in that moment, that's the call.
Right.
Until you process it and you're like, all right, so let's say you call a foul, and then you're waiting for them to take the ball out of bounds or foul shots. Now you're processing the call. Was that right? Was that wrong? Right. Should I have called that? Mm-hmm. Did she have 4 fouls and I just fouled the best player out of the game? Like, that's when you process it after that moment happens. Right.
But then there's another layer of that, because sometimes, okay, like, and I always use this analogy. When you're at McDonald's, it's your first day, right? Yeah. Jamie's the manager, right? I don't know how to, I'm like, okay, that says 6-piece nugget. That says large fries. Okay, that'll be $6.75, right? And they give you, $8, and you're like, okay, Jamie, okay, then the manager, I'm sure this has happened to everyone that's been to McDonald's. They go, here, give this to them. And then you go, here you go. And you're not like, come on, you couldn't do that yourself? Yeah. You don't do that. Yeah. But hey, this could be their first varsity game that they're reffing. They're terrified. Yes. So they make that call. Everyone starts off booing. You think they're going to be confident for the next call?
So what I do want to say is something that I've thought of is we give so much responsibility to these players that are so young that their responsibility is so high on the field, on the court, in the game. And we're expecting the referees to keep up with that high level of responsibility. Sure. Which, depending, like, for a championship game, you ref championships last year for girls basketball. It's a different level.
For sure.
It is a different level, and you can't expect a referee during the season to have that high level of responsibility. No. Just like some players don't always have that.
Well, that's why there's a bench, and then there's a third in the depth chart.
We give a lot of responsibility to players where they don't have it in their everyday life. On the court, it's higher than them going to school every day, them going home, chores. Same thing with referees. Like, you might not have a high responsibility job, but your job as a referee in the game, it's a lot of high responsibility.
Well, if I can break it down for people that aren't referees, I want them to always think of this when they are watching a game.
By the way, what type of tea is this?
It's cinnamon stick. Yeah.
Very good.
Stop and Shop.
Very good.
Target, they all have it.
Very good.
Yeah. I figured like the chamomile tastes like it's normal. It's basic tea. I'm sorry, Coach Dempsey. Well, very good, right? It's really awesome.
Very good.
Yeah, I knew you'd like it. I knew, yeah. Add that to your playlist. So what I wanted to say was, like, if you think of it in terms of basketball, right? What's a good field goal percentage?
60.
That's like being very, very like efficient.
I mean, realistically, a
good
team,
35-40%. I mean, listen.
I guess I have some high standards.
Okay, sure. But what I'm saying is like, okay, what's a good 3-point percentage?
Oh yeah, like
40%, 45, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break that down. 100 shots, right? You make 45 shots, which means you miss 65 shots. That means 65 times.
Yes.
Referees, right? If I make 100 calls, our accuracy level has to be 97, 98. So think about how unequal that is already, right? Because those three, even though I'm 97% accurate, if one of those mistakes is at the end of the game and it costs one team, you're at zero.
I was going to say, some calls can sway the game.
Yes.
Some referees can sway the game with how they ref.
Right.
And, like, I think that's the biggest thing as a coach that I care about is be consistent.
Yeah.
So whether it's your partner and you, whether it's you, like, on one side making the call and not on the other, I think consistency is the biggest thing. And when you're not consistent, that's where the inefficiency comes in of the mistakes.
Well, I do have a formula, and let's go back to. Well, I think of it this way too. Let's go back to the basic thing. So, I don't want to choke the game. I want to run the game.
Yeah.
Right. So, depending on the skill level is how I'm going. That dictates how I ref.
Yeah.
If there's two teams, right? Let's say I got Baldwin versus Lujan. It's probably going to be a very skilled game.
Yes.
I don't really got to do a lot because they already know what to do.
That's
I got to ref in a different way because I know a lot of those girls because I've been reffing them all the time, and I know they know the tricks.
Yes.
They know how to deceive referees. So I'm not even looking for basic things.
But you're also going to let them play and be physical.
But that's because their skill is up to par.
Yes.
I don't have to choke them because they can't control themselves. Now, if we're talking about a kid, and I just talked about this with one of these lower level officials that's having his first, shout out to Matt
like a middle school basketball.
Middle school, right? So in the rules in Nassau County, modified high school is first, second, third quarter, you do not press.
Yeah.
Fourth, fifth period, you can press.
Yeah.
However, whether the coach is hell-bent on pressing or not, they want to press, even though the kids don't know how to press. Conceptually, I don't care. We can press, we're going to press. I don't care. So now it's a foul fest, fourth and fifth quarter, right? Now, is that fair to me that you haven't coached them to be proficient enough to deserve to press? That enters me where now I have to control the game. I don't want to ref like that at all.
No.
But I have to, right? So that's what I mean. Depending on the skill level, if the skill isn't up to par, that's when I have to kind of control the game. So that's my little formula. Like, depending on the skill level, and I always say this, if there's a kid going in the backcourt, right? He plays at Chaminade. But I've seen him since he was a kid. I used to ref him, on the AAU circuit, right? I know he's worked on his dribble. I know that he spends 40 minutes a day going left, right, two balls, doing all this, posting it on Instagram. He's worked on it. Yeah. So I'm going to give him a little leniency.
Yeah.
A little bit. I'm not saying I'm going to let him go crossover and transfer.
And I think that's good familiarity, that, like, you're reffing all these girls, so you see a lot of games, and then I think our Instagram page helps you
absolutely
to see everybody.
It's been a godsend because it makes me want to call Grace, and if that game's available, I'm going to call. No, it more so.
I love that. I still love that story. That you're literally looking up, if you're available, like, what other game is on. I will say that BOCES is still hasn't really cleared up the mistakes of games. Like, we still have a game like 12-1 Roslyn, which moved to 2-5.
Well, here's also another thing.
No,
right?
I'm just saying.
Shout out to BOCES only because, as a multi-sport official, I understand, like, let's say, for instance, the spring season, we have lacrosse, right? We have softball.
Oh, no, totally. I'm just saying, it's hard right now for me to even put the schedule together.
Got you, because they don't have it fully fleshed. But it's getting better. It's like towards the end of the season, and the playoffs you'll have ample time to be able to do that. Okay, I get what you're saying, but I think it's been great only because of the exposure, right? I think it's such a great cost-effective way for a kid to get exposure when they don't.
Yeah.
And also, I just go like, oh, okay. For me, I can kind of like pre-scout and go, instead of like just looking at layup lines, I go, all right, she got a little bag, she can do this. Like, all right, now I know how to ref her. But I definitely think it's important that, and I think that's also like, and I'm not sure if your kids kind of overlook when you say you should know that this ref does this, because I really don't think that they really think, because they go, why is he calling all the back? And you're going, I told you he calls it like that.
I think it depends on the players. Like, good players can do that. I remember for me, I was able to do that as a player in high school because we had the same officials in CYO. We had the same officials in high school. So I'm like, oh, I know who it is.
I'm able to body this one.
I know who it is.
Yeah.
And that's why as a coach, I can still do that because I still know most of the referees, you know? But I will say some referees I'll see elsewhere that aren't up to par, and then they come into the high school season and a little like, all right, you're not reffing the same way, and I appreciate it.
And I think that's fair because I also think like some games aren't the same. Like,
yes,
you know, if I'm doing a $35 rec league and I'm getting yelled at, I'm sorry, you're getting $35 Ralph. But if you're getting $131 Ralph and I'm reffing a varsity game,
yes,
you're going to get a different type of effort. Now,
yes.
I'm definitely the same in play calling.
Yes.
And maybe my demeanor's a little different, but you also have to understand the context. And I think that's also important for referees and I think it's tough because when somebody, and there's also a formula to that. If you're doing 90% rec games and you're only doing 10%,
that's true.
It's hard to all of a sudden switch. But then also further, if you do 90% school games and 10%, you don't want to ref rec game like a school game.
And I was going to say, do you think it benefits you, even if it's not the same sport, to ref all school games, whatever, like every sport, rather than ref?
Answer is no. You know, I want to be good at all the different machinations. And I think also in terms of, because reffing also is a very competitive thing. Mm-hmm. It's weird because you have a partner, but like I'm trying to attack him. I'm trying to look, you know what I mean? I'm trying to subconsciously do the best I can to just let him know I'm here too. Mm-hmm. But then there also goes with the playoffs of like, oh, he got this game, he got that one. You might have a Sweet 16 you have to go to. You might have to have a wedding. Like, you're not available. I don't know why you're upset. But just even that, I even further to, I guess, dull my senses when it comes to just being so competitive with basketball because I don't like that aspect of it. I ref other sports.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about that. You get that. Like, you can have that. I'll just do another sport. That way, I feel like I'm just more well-rounded. And I also feel like you accrue different skills. Like, even though you might not think of it this way, I feel like volleyball not only recharges you for basketball because of your time away, but I also think it's also pulling from a different side of your brain.
Oh, no,
And
absolutely.
It's probably teaching you how, because you're just not yelling like that in volleyball.
But I'm saying, my question is, do you think refereeing every sport in high school is better than reffing like just basketball in high school and then ref?
I think it's always better to be a multi-sport official.
But do you think it's more beneficial to stay in high school and ref everything, or to go back and forth between like rec, travel?
I think it's always good to go back and forth because I think it's the same thing. Like, if you're coaching a high-level team,
that's true,
you're going to coach differently than when you're coaching like little kids that can't play.
That's true.
You're not going to be like, I expect you to be national. You're going to coach different. And I think that's what's so good about longevity in coaching, because one day it might be 2029 and you're going to have the most amazing team that has ever graced Hicksville High School, and you're going to be like, I feel like I don't got to do anything. But then there's other moments where it's like,
but think about how much you put in to get to there.
Absolutely. And that's also another thing that's never talked about, because, you know, one of my fellow officials, shout out to Lavelle Cannon, he, you know, I'm always like, so you doing volleyball this year? He's like, yeah. I'm like, and then I told him I was reffing that camera. He's like, oh, you got there. But it's like, he doesn't know when I started at 19.
You know, there's all these taglines, like trust the process, you know, have confidence. But until you break it down, especially for young athletes, and young, I mean high school and below, it's just a tagline. You know what I mean? It's just like a shirt being sold with a cool logo. Right. It's not
by you.
They haven't experienced it to actually feel it and understand it. It's just a saying. It's just the tagline. So, like, I think my team turned a corner last night in our game, and they felt the things that we're trying to preach them and know that they can do, but they had to experience it. Right. And they had to feel it.
And I think, too, the athletes nowadays, and I'm just saying from my coaching experience, I never want to say, I told you.
No.
Just go.
No.
I want them to go like,
how do you feel?
No,
like, you did it. How do you feel?
I really think that to be the most effective coach you can at the youth level, at the high school level, is that you can say whatever you want until they self-discover it for themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be like...
But I think as a coach, like, that's why I try to push them to get there.
Yeah.
Like the left hand thing. Like, somebody needs you to hold accountable, right? Somebody has to hold you accountable. And when you don't hold yourself accountable,
right,
other people are there to hold you accountable.
Right.
So I think for players, they try to hold themselves accountable. But now it's my job as a coach to really hold them accountable and then push them to that limit they don't think they can go past.
Right. You're an excellent coach. Let's go back to the game that I ref you 2 days ago, and
we're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about that.
Well, listen, I think that's also part of the journey of coaching.
It was a struggle, and we're over the struggle, and it went really well.
So it was important to go through that.
It was important
to feel that
to
way.
go through it.
Good.
It was important, and I think I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to put more negativity on it than what happened.
No, I just mean more so of it going like this. I think failure.
It was a moment, and like a negative moment that we had to work through, and now we're over it, and now we're just worried about game by game.
Well, going back to what you were saying of just like why kids are reluctant to try something new, it's because of failure. They don't want to fail.
They've never done it.
I like to normalize failure. Like failure is important.
Yes.
Like for me, if I screw up in your game, and guess what? It's December 3rd. I'd rather do that than when I'm at Hofstra.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But you're not thinking of it that way in that moment. But I'm like, all right, well that didn't work, so I won't do that again.
Well, for certain referees, again, I take everyone as I know them. So, like, I know that you do all that. So I'm going to be like...
But I feel like you didn't know that at all until we started talking about it. Like,
no, yeah.
Right? Like, even though you've known refs all your life.
I just thought you and I played pickup.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't really into reffing in that way yet. But
yes.
You realize how much of a science goes into it.
Yes.
Like, it's, and also at the same time, that's what I love.
And I think that's what fans or people that are watching the game that aren't the coaches, or maybe sometimes the coaches and the players, they don't know.
Yeah.
This ref's college.
Right.
This ref is like doing bigger things than just this high school or this middle school.
Right, and that's not to demean what we're doing at that moment, but I'll also say, I want everyone out there, a parent, like a coach, or I want you to imagine a world where it's reverse, and the ref instead are the ones that are being vocal, and I go, how did you miss that again? Like, you can't go now. Imagine if I did that when one of your kids shoot every time.
That would be unprofessional.
Right? But that's exactly how we feel.
Yeah. So, it's funny because last night, I got very hyped up over a call because it's a close game. And I have semantics. You see me on the sideline.
Yeah, one time you said anything and I went, nothing. And I wanted to say, happy holidays, Kelly. This is how it's going today.
But I like to stomp my foot. I like to jump sometimes. So last night, there was a call. And I'm like, that's totally a jump ball. And they called a reach. And I'm like, that's a jump ball. And, I feel bad. But it's again, that's the call that could sway when it's a close game.
Now, were they able to explain why it was a jump ball?
They didn't even.
Well, listen, sometimes sometimes that's the cards you're dealt with.
I actually want to talk about one thing.
Okay.
In high school and in AAU this fall, we had 2 instances. And I just want to get your take on it, or what the actual referee perspective is on it.
Okay.
So in AAU in the fall, one of my girls on a fast break layup got fouled. Blatantly crazy, thrown to the floor, fouled. Baseline referee didn't call it. I'm looking at the half court ref, and I don't know the terms for them either. The half court ref said, that's not my call, that's his call. But throughout the game, we know that his partner is not strong. So I know he's a stronger ref, and I'm trying to rely on him to make that call. So in our high school game last night, we had a 3-second call. Now the baseline ref, I'm yelling because they're so far away, 3 seconds. He's right on the baseline, he doesn't see it. So this ref at half court is saying, I can make that call too. And now I'm like, I didn't think that was your call. He's like, you're right, it's more his, but I can still, And so my thing is, and it's funny, in the AAU game, when I said something to him, we went down the other end, and his partner from half court called something. And I was like, so now you're going to call it? It's funny. But I know there's specifics to which referee calls what.
Yep.
But I guess I wanted an explanation or your take on.
Yeah, so I mean that's a really like multi-layered question, but I can probably give you a multi-layered answer. So
let's start with simple.
Well, let's go back to a couple of days where I know somebody got fouled, but it definitely wasn't my call. But it was with somebody that I work with. I've worked thousands and thousands of games with him every week for like 10 years almost now, and I was shocked that he didn't get the call, and he was already on the ground. And I legitimately didn't see the whole play, so I didn't call it. And I was wondering why he didn't, and he said he didn't see it. Now, in normal circumstances, when you're in AAU, chances are it's either two new people, one person that's a veteran that's just kind of like, I wouldn't say on the outs, but not really. They're kind of subconscious now. It's like mindless reffing.
Yes.
But then there's also somebody that's learning, and they don't really understand all of those things. So,
but I mean, did that ref say the right thing?
It's right and wrong. So it definitely is his call, but at the same time, I don't know what this other ref's philosophy is. He might say, you didn't call it, you got to eat it. You got to learn how to blow the whistle. So that might be a teaching moment for that referee. Unfortunately, it impacts your game in real time. But I'm trying to tell you, if it's a timeout and you're telling me, and I'm saying that's his call in that moment, there's two ways you can help him, right? You can go, I'm going to call that call, and it'll be the path of least resistance in terms of like front facing. And I say, that's your call. I'm not going to do that again. Or there's some refs that are just like, no, that's your call. I'm not dealing with that. You got to eat it.
Yeah.
You got to eat it. In fact, I'm going to throw you under the bus. I'm going to tell you it's your call. So that way you learn how to call that. Because sometimes too, like, here's another thing when you're learning how to ref. You don't know what to look like sometimes.
No, you don't.
So if I don't know, if I'm not like, you've seen refs like when they make the block, you're like, oh, that
or
looks like he's not ready.
Like, they're trying to make the call, but they're hesitant, and they're like, was it a block? Was it a charge? Was it?
What happens is the synapses in their brain, they make the call, they know what it is, but then the next part of their brain goes, what am I supposed to look like? And it's like, it's a block. Yeah. Where it's like, now you're just losing your credibility. But you know what? Think about over the course of a game, how many times you see a block. As a ref, right? You might do 100 games, you might see the block 4 times. That's where you see out of bounds constantly.
Charge is the least.
Right.
My issue is always 3 seconds, because it's like you can just see it, and it's there, and it's the least call I think that ever. And I
would just hope you go like, why are you still in there? That's what I do. Like, you're still in? Like, I just told you to get out. Like, that's what I try to do. I don't want to like hit them and then go like.
But there are, I guess my point of asking those 2 questions about those scenarios.
Well, did that clear everything up? Kind of.
I mean, what's the baseline ref? What's the half court ref?
Well, if the play is coming here, right, and the other ref is not following it, I would hope that the baseline ref is able to.
Well, there's a lead ref, right?
Yeah. And that's the one that's on the baseline in the trail. But it really depends on the play. But at the same time, forget all that. Let's just keep it easy. You want to make the right call.
Yeah.
So let's just make the right call. Forget about who should call what. Like, you don't care who scores. You want them to score because that's the object of the game. So
that's the other thing too, is when it feels like referees are not calling things, or they are calling things one way, it kind of makes it feel like they're rooting for a team.
Right. And you know what? Funny you should say that, because I'm not going to say it was this game or another game, but I'm well aware when Coach Dempsey has this one thing in her bag where she goes, it's 7 fouls to 1. Like, something's up. And I'm like, I know it's up. And I'm like, I don't got any good answers.
As a referee, are you paying attention to the team
Absolutely.
fouls? But I don't think every referee does.
I understand that.
And it's funny because, what's the other thing that I do? My player will do something, and I'll be like, don't worry, it wasn't a foul. Right in front of the referee. Like, it's a foul shot. The ref is coming to the sideline. Hey, Martha, don't worry, that wasn't a foul. See, but right so the referee can hear it. That's the other trick in my bag.
Now there is where I put my coaching cap on and I go, I see what we're doing here. I see what we're doing. That's why I never take it personal.
Because as a coach, I don't have to say anything to the referee, but they hear me.
Right, and also
I'm talking to my player.
You're supporting them too. You're advocating for what they're doing.
So I don't have to yell at the referee.
No, and I think that's completely appropriate, because in terms of the morale, you want, even though you're losing by 30 or up by 20, if I know that my coach is still advocating for us, I'm feeling pretty good.
And at the same time, the kids are still learning.
Yeah.
The players are still learning. So they might not understand why that was a reach.
Right. And just know, like, going from rec to that atmosphere, that's scary. Yes. That's really scary, because now it's like, oh, wow. Because before, when you're doing an AAU game, they call the foul, they stay at the same spot, they go 34, okay, you're shooting 2.
Yeah.
Where now they got to do this whole formal song and dance. They might not be used to that whole formal song and dance with the crowd. And,
no, definitely.
Because, even though it's AAU and like the difference between games at AAU, it just feels like it is a big deal. Yes. There's music during timeouts. There's a shot clock. It's very overwhelming for a referee that hasn't experienced it all the time. So, at the very least, just give them grace. And maybe you got some new tricks up your sleeve where you go like, how long you been reffing? You just get up to this level? You sure you ready for this? I've heard people say things like that. Are you ready for this? I don't know if you're ready for this level.
Talking about approachability earlier, sometimes I don't feel like I can even have a conversation.
Well, I think it's appropriate to say, like, am I able to converse with you?
Well, I've said
because I have questions.
I've said sometimes to a referee, can I ask you a question? And, like, they'll think I'm being sarcastic. And it's like, no, I'm really not being sarcastic.
Why don't you just say, like, I have questions. Are you going to be able to answer it? Like, and, that's also part of being a ref.
The game last night, I didn't even see what happened. Mm-hmm. And in my perspective, I thought he called a foul, but I didn't really see what he called.
Well,
I saw what happened. I didn't see the call. So the other team got the ball, and I thought it was a foul because of what transpired. And I'm not arguing the call. Mm-hmm. I just didn't understand because I didn't feel like it was clear that they made the call for me to know what it was. Or because I was looking in that direction, but I don't know how. Like, and I don't miss calls, so I didn't know how I.
You don't miss calls that happen to your team, or
no. Like, I just genuinely don't think I ever miss a call being called. I kind of know what's going on.
Right. You see what's happening,
and I was shocked in myself that I even missed seeing him call the call. And so I genuinely had to ask him, and I think he was kind of like thinking I was questioning him, and I had to say, like, I literally didn't even see what you called. Can you just tell me what you just called?
Well, I'll just say that sometimes, the reason why I'm approachable is because I'm confident in what I called. I can explain to you verbatim why it is, why it's illegal, and my rationale as to why I came to that conclusion. So, of course I'm going to be approachable. I'm not afraid of telling you what I saw, because that's what I saw. I get it. It was against your team, but I'm very confident. Now, if there's somebody that's newer and doesn't have the same experience, imagine, like, I feel unsure of myself.
Yeah.
So how am I going to answer the question when I don't know myself? And that's what I'm saying.
I find, like, I don't know if I've ever said this to you, but I would be like, that was a clear foul. Like, I'm the first one to say when my team does something wrong, like, that was a travel, that was a foul.
Maybe you can approach it and say, you didn't think that was a foul? Because maybe now it'll go.
I do
now,
say that.
Now you're starting to get into the rationale of saying, like,
that's another trick of mine.
Okay, maybe he genuinely didn't feel that was a foul.
Maybe.
I think, you know what? My dad's a ref, and, I know the old interpreter. I think they would interpret that as a foul.
You know what? I'm going to say that again, and hopefully you ref us again so I can say that exact same thing.
Yeah, but see, I can't even take it serious. I'm like, don't, them tricks not going to work on me.
Anything.
Nothing. What other topics you have? We wrapping this up.
That was pretty much everything I think I wanted to talk about.
This was fun. We got to do this more.
You know what? I was watching our first episode, and I just, not in a cocky way, I really thought it was very good.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I think we had a lot of gem information that we just
So dropped. We're going to put that out. We're just going to put that out?
Oh.
Yeah.
It's going up today.
All right, cool.
And then this episode's going up a week.
All right, cool.
But no, I think it's important. I think we both have a lot of knowledge. I think bringing the referee coaching world, playing world, because that's the other thing. As a coach or a referee, I feel like it's good that you played a sport.
Yeah.
A sport. If you played basketball and you're refereeing football, I think it's good as an athlete you knew what it was like, because the atmosphere is important.
So you could tell when refs haven't played basketball?
Or sport. Sometimes.
Well,
I mean, it's hard.
Also,
older referees, you don't know. But
you don't know if they were in Hoosiers. I got you.
You could tell.
Yeah. Now, also, my final thing is, do you think that we would be able to converse this way if I didn't have coaching experience? Because I feel like my my perspective would be much more different because
what
you
do
got to think.
My answer is?
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
Because of how we met. We
Right.
met playing pickup.
Okay.
So I already knew you played basketball.
Yeah.
I didn't know you coached.
Right.
So I think we met because we played together pickup, and then I saw you in the coaching realm.
What if I wasn't good at basketball?
Well, wait. I saw you in the coaching realm of volleyball, and the third thing I saw you as was a referee. So it's kind of like I had more respect for you because first of all we personally knew each other.
Right.
Then you also coached, so okay, like props. And now, you ref. Like, I know your judgment from knowing you previously, so now I trust your judgment as the referee.
Yes. And I'll just say that there was once upon a time where I was good at basketball and like
You were.
those moves I can do.
You were.
All those moves I can do. So it's
and
not
it's
as
funny
if...
because the girls say that to me all the time, and I'm like, let me step on the court. And then they're like, well, you're so tall, that's why you're good. Tall has nothing to do with being good.
That's facts.
Tall
That's
is
nothing but
nothing.
facts. Okay, we'll wrap this up. You'll enjoy the rest of your cinema stick.
Absolutely.
Any final things you want to say?
Ralph. No, just where can they find you?
They can find me at REFEREERANT, and they'll be finding us in this Ball That Talk. We're going to make our social media thing.
Yeah.
We're going to set that up right now and figure that out. But
yeah,
for Coach Dempsey, Ralph the Ref, we are Ball That Talk.
We're out.
Peace.